I know that my parents, my grandparents, my uncles, and then my sister went from the ghetto, from Warsaw Ghetto, went to the death. Also, I don't know the day.
It was very difficult for me to reckon with the Holocaust. It was very difficult for me to reckon with how my grandparents and uncles and aunts were killed. I was haunted by those images.
I think that the Holocaust is the main connection between me and to be a Jew. And maybe it's good or maybe it's bad, but that's how I feel.
I think just being aware of the pain that your own family experienced make you much more sensitive to the people around you.
I know kids, and they don't take it seriously, they don't understand it, and they talk about it as if, okay, there was a Holocaust, whatever, it's not real, it's a story, some people are exaggerating, it was different.
A German with a policeman, Polish policeman, came into that train and checked. There were a lot of children there. And they said, all you there out.
I can remember looking through boxes of photographs, and there were very, very few photographs of my parents' family. In that was a photo of her brother, Kalman.
Kalman was about 3 and a half years younger than me. A very good-looking little boy, very good boy, although he always wanted to prove to the teacher that she's not right and he's right. That photograph, I think he was 4 and a half. My uncle, who lived at this time in Paris, he wanted to have a picture of his mother. We went to a photographer. My grandmother wanted us to come along with her. The photographer took pictures of us, and she sent it to my uncle in Paris. After the war, when I saw my uncle, he made copies, he gave me a picture. Had very few pictures.
When I was a kid, I always thought that I would be able to find Kalman somehow, that I would be able to bring him back to my mother. It was a fantasy of mine to somehow bring a piece of my mother's lost past back to her.
I loved him very much, and we were closer, I think, that I was with my sister, because my sister was older. She liked to go out with boys, dress up, to have a good time. She put on lipstick and makeup. And the two of us were actually young children. We had more in common because we were kids and we liked to play ball, whatever. So I miss my brother a lot.
I always felt something really sad happened to her, and I didn't know what it was. And I wanted to know what it was. I started to ask a lot of questions, and so she told me about her life before the war, because she didn't want to haunt me with what happened to her during the Holocaust, so I learned a lot about her family life and her stories.
I loved him, and I had a big responsibility because I was the middle child, and wherever I went, I was supposed to take him with me, and I didn't like it. So once we went to the beach, and he was showing off to some friends with swimming, and he didn't know how to swim. And he was starting to go under, and they pulled him up, some people, and I was scared to death. I was so scared, and I said, I'm not going to take him anymore. I was afraid, because I could have lost him that time. And I was lucky not to.
I never wanted to paint anything connected to the Holocaust because I didn't see it as a subject matter. It was too big, it was too intense, and I certainly did not want to trivialize my parents' story in any way. So I wouldn't touch it. When I came up with the idea for the Memory Project, it really grew out of this sense of different streams of my life coming together. The idea that I had of videotaping myself painting so that I could bring people into the process of painting and have them experience from the inside what it's like to build a painting. And the universality of loss. We all lose someone, we all die. There is a universal element that I wanted to address. So that's why suddenly I felt there was a need to paint something connected to the Holocaust. My uncle became the subject because he contained for me a link to the past through stories of life and escape and loss. It just all became encapsulated in this one beautiful boy.
I think art is a fantastic tool to connect to our feelings and to the history, both on, the facts of the history and to our emotions. It's a trigger. It triggers expressing them.
My sister was engaged and she wanted very much to escape from the ghetto with her boyfriend. And they were ready to escape to Russia, because a lot of young people were going to Russia. And my mother started to cry. At that time, we didn't know that's going to get so bad, the ghetto. So my mother said, "Child, you're leaving," and cried, "I'm not going to see you anymore, this is it." So she decided not to go. When my brother and I decided to escape from the war together, my mother said, "Go and save yourself," because it was already bad. The first time when I wanted to escape from the ghetto, that was a train, like a trolley. It was going through the ghetto. It was started on a certain spot at the end of the ghetto. So me and my brother went there, and we passed through the ghetto, but before we went out of the ghetto, a German with a policeman, Polish policeman, came into that train and checked. There were a lot of children there, and they said, "All you there out." And my brother didn't go, and he was sitting next to me. And then the policeman came over, or the German, I don't remember, and took him out. So I followed him. I wanted to see what happens. So I followed him. This was a German and a policeman. The German started to hit my brother. And I started to beg with him, "Don't hit him, hit me, because he's a little boy, he's a little child. Don't hit him, hit me. Don't you have children of your own?" I was saying to him, and he started to get angry, but I touched him someplace because he threw us back to the ghetto. We were running, and I lost one shoe. I didn't have the shoe more. So this was the first time when I wanted to escape. I myself probably would be able to go through, but with my brother, he looked Jewish. I didn't look Jewish. So I went back into the ghetto. We both were lucky because the other children were taken to this police station, and then I don't know what happened to the other ones.
How do we connect to our past? How do we connect to people who we never met, who have affected our lives?
It's so surreal. How can a 13 or 14-year-old girl take her little brother by herself, and be out there in the world in the war? But we just described it, and we just said, that's how it was. They had to survive, and Savta survived. And then they heard the details about Kalman, but it's facts and reality, and you just have to give them the emotional strength to deal with it. But it is what it is.
And I heard the story of Savta Anja and of her brother and of the ghetto and how they ran away. And it makes me feel much more connected because I heard it from my great-grandparents. They were there, but they survived, and they were with people who got killed. They had friends, brothers, sisters, and nobody should think that it's a legend.
In ghetto, things were getting much, much worse. You saw more robberies when you walked on the street and you had a bread under your arm. Somebody came from behind you, grabbed the bread away from you. And you saw more people on the street starving, laying on the floors. The following day they were dead, especially young children. You've seen a lot of people going with hand wagons, picking up the dead people from the pavement. It was getting very, very hard. My brother escaped from the Warsaw Ghetto with my uncle and a cousin, the cousin that I have here in the picture. But they were arrested and put into jail. So the German supervisor from the jail asked, who's speaking German? So he said he speaks German. And every day he was walking around with a German guy, who brought the food, who gave them the food, and he was like to translate, you know, how you call it? Interpreter from German. But you know, he didn't know German. Whatever Jewish he knew. Now, when the time came and I decided to leave the ghetto, it was a few months between the first escape and the second one. And for me, I thought at this time that I have a chance to get out. I told my mother how I want to go. And she said to me, go, my child, save yourself. I was 15 years old, and I lived all by myself. My mother knew that I made up with his friend. They were waiting for me, that they will take me out of the ghetto. So me, I decided to go, but I didn't want to say goodbye. I didn't. I really don't know if I remember exactly how it did happen. If I was strong enough, or I was just leaving, or I hugged her. I don't remember. When the time came that my brother was released, he was released with my cousin together because they were like children. They didn't know anybody. So they went back to Warsaw to my parents. And my mother told my brother that I left the ghetto and I'm in Ożarów. And my brother had the permit to travel. So he picked himself up and traveled and came to me. And I rented a bed in a woman's one-room place to sleep there, to be there. This was my home now. And my brother came to me. We had one little bed. We slept together. Bless you. And my brother saw the situation, that we have nothing, we have no food. So he went to a farm and he got a job there. And he slept in a barn there. And for the weekend, for Saturday, he came to me. He always brought me some bread, some food, a few eggs, you know. Yeah. And then he went back Monday to the farm. I don't remember the date, but I saw him like a Saturday, And Monday, we were taken to camp. I mean, the young people were sent away to a concentration camp. And I never heard or knew about them no more, nothing about them.
Sometimes I feel it burns inside me, like, not as I was there, but like I feel Saba and Savta in me, and they were there.
The worst time of my life was when I came out of camp and I didn't find anybody of my family. No one survived of my family. That was number one worst part of my life. When I came to Wrocław, 1945, I went to the place where we lived. The woman who had our apartment didn't let me in.
She was disappointed. She went to a neighbor and knocked on the door, and the neighbor remembered her and opened the door, let her in, and they started to talk. My mother wanted to know if any of her other relatives had passed through the town, and the neighbor said no, no one else had come. But the neighbor pulled out a photograph.
The photograph that you had was made in Wrocław when I was going home from school with my brother. And a photographer came along and he said, "Let me take your picture." I said, "No, I don't want any picture." But no, 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 he said, "I'll take your picture, you don't have to buy it." So we threw our school bags on a side and he took the picture. And then when we saw the picture, we liked it and we bought the picture. When we were evacuated from Wrocław, thrown out from our apartment, the people who moved in that apartment took all the pictures and threw them on the garbage. It was, in the yard was like a bin, and they would throw it in the bin. But the neighbor who had one son, he was my brother's friend, picked out that picture and kept it. That's how I came to this picture. There were a lot of pictures thrown out, but the boy took just that picture. He wanted to have him as a friend.
Although the Holocaust was always present in the background, as I got older, I started to realize what happened. And I think it really socked me in the stomach when I went to Yad Vashem the first time as I guess a 17-year-old. And I walked around Yad Vashem seeing these photographs, and I found myself looking for my mother and for her family, and with a sort of desperation, I was looking at these photographs. I was looking at the history, and it was all of a sudden, all the stories that I heard and all the little fragments of things that I heard from my parents fit into this history of the Holocaust, and it was devastating.
My daughter, Rosalind, she was very curious to know about what happened and where are her grandparents and where are her uncles and aunts, what happened to them. And my older boys, yeah, they knew all our friends who were all survivors. Although we lived in the United States, we didn't have friends, American friends. For some reason, we clicked better too. We understood each other. We understood each other's pain.
I grew up in this community of survivors that was I think everyone lost so many people that we all became each other's family.
I'm carrying the trauma of my loss. I don't want to forget it. I want to remember as long as I live what happened. Some people are different. Everybody's different. And some people don't want to remember things that they went through in life. I don't want to forget.
When I was a little kid, my mother would come into bed to wake me up before school, and she would always tell me stories about her life before the war. Her great-grandmother, Devorah, who lived to be 105, but to her dying day was completely aware of what was going on around her. And before Devorah died, she actually wanted to bless every single person in the family, and she did. And she waited until some of the family came from Warsaw. And she put her hand on each one's head and blessed them. And, you know, maybe I'm still touched by her hand, because I feel sometimes that I'm so connected to these people that I never met. I didn't have them, but I had them. Devorah, she was considered a wise woman, and her daughter, Esther, my mother's grandmother, was also considered a healer. She did cupping on acupuncture points. I came from this wonderful lineage of women who were wise women and helped the community. And maybe that's a part of why I want to tell their story and continue to bring something into the world that's positive.
I think I find in music a way to communicate with people, but not in words. I'm about to go in an orchestra tour around Europe. It's a quite interesting orchestra. It's an orchestra with Arabs and Israelis, I mean Jewish Israelis. And the goals of the tour is to show maybe the world that music is an international language. That we can all actually play together without worries and without anything on our minds beside music. Playing is the most intimate and the most beloved thing I love to do. And to sit in an orchestra and to sit next to a Syrian guy. And why we need this war? Why we can all not sit in the orchestra? I mean, it sounds maybe naive, I know.
Right.
But when you do that, you don't understand why it's not happening.
That showed me that if the older people will listen to the younger people, they could get along maybe better.
We chip away at getting along in the world. Art gives us an opportunity to practice living together and practice sharing ideas and having a dialogue.
When people ask me who's the people I admire or I'm looking to be like them, I always tell the story about Saba and Savta.
I want to remember, and I want to have a good time too. One thing doesn't go without the other. Pain goes together with happiness. You cannot forget about happiness and you cannot forget about pain. So I don't want to forget.
There's a way to bring light even into the darkest situations. And that's what painting does for me, and that's what hearing those stories of the past offered me as well, bringing light into the darkness. How can we look at history together, not as victim-perpetrator, but as we're human beings, and look what we're capable of, and what else are we capable of, you know?